Okay, thanks. Welcome to the July 25th Helm Dev Chat. I guess we'll go ahead and start off with announcements. Whose announcement is this?
That would be me. So
Okay.
last week, or actually on Tuesday, sorry, not last week, we released Helm 3.00 Alpha 2. So this is just kind of like an iteration upon what we have been working on from the first alpha. And there's been about 110, 115 commits that have been made since Alpha 1 was released, including some pretty good bugs that have been fixed in terms of usability. So this is more or less kind of like an iteration upon their doing some internal refactoring of some SDK stuff. And then also like Taylor worked on some of the weight flag stuff, and that was been restored and refactored and all that. So it's a kind of like an iterative improvement upon the existing Helm 3 Alpha 1. So that has been the next release. The release afterwards that we're trying to shoot now for in the next 4 weeks or so is the first beta. So we've got a few more things on the list that we want to make sure that we get in that are kind of like backwards incompatibility breakers, like changing the API version in the chart.yaml when you do a helm create v2, because there's some new functionality and some things that have been refactored internally in the chart specification, like the dependencies and all that, that tooling for Helm 2 might not necessarily understand. Helm itself will understand it and will be able to work with Helm 2 charts, but newer or tools and plugins that used to use Helm 2 might not necessarily work with these. So this is just kind of like a signal that new things are in the chart.yaml, and those things have been forwarded over to Helm 3. So that's the end of the announcement for that. If you're interested in taking a look at what's on the current roadmap for Helm Beta 1, there is now a milestone available for Helm 3.0 Beta 1. So I'll link it into the chat after this. But once that's in there, you can take a look and see what's available. So back to you, Scott.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt. Yeah, did anyone else have announcements they didn't list yet? Looking like no. Okay. Should we go to stand-ups? I can go ahead and start. I just worked on charts PRs this week. Are we still doing the next person? I guess Martin.
Sure, thanks, Scott. So this week I was looking at, so I hooked together a client end-to-end calling into Helm v2, Helm v3 clients, pulled out state information for release and shot it into v3. So I put this in, I just wanted to do some end-to-end on it first before I pulled together some of the proposals on some of the issues that may come around when we're doing migrations, etc. I know it's probably something that will go post 0.0, but I'll try and pull together a proposal, probably started on Monday, that shows some of the hooks in and a few interesting things that came out of it as well. So yeah, down the line it may need some changes in the API to allow certain things to happen. So yeah, I'll see how that goes. Apart from that, just PRs and issues and so forth. So I'll hand over to Taylor.
So this week I've been working on figuring out some things just for refactoring the kube client and adding back in cleanup on fail. So the big things I'm working on trying to get done here before we move to the beta, just because I know they're breaking, is I'm completely refactoring the kube client that we use inside of Helm, and adding back in cleanup on fail, and then the apply and merge logic, which I'll be working on with Fisher and Adam to kind of hash out and see what we need to do. So that's been kind of my focus on the side, and I'm still trying to tackle the sometimes issue of in older versions of Kubernetes or Helm, we're not completely sure, where sometimes like objects don't update. But some people have given me some good information recently, so I'm going to try to dig into that too during this next week. And that is it for me, so let's pass it off to Farina.
So I spent most of the last week on vacation. and out. So I didn't do much of anything, but since I gotten back, I've been doing reviews of Helm and Helm Hub stuff. And that's it. Who hasn't gone? Michelle.
Yeah, I just, after we had the last call, Jacob had a PR that basically implemented the things that we talked about in the last call around Helm Test. And so I reviewed that, and I'm just following along there. I'm happy to help in any way possible. Other than that, I'll just be focusing on PR reviews for the next week. That's it. Who hasn't gone? Josh?
Yeah, so I've been kind of out of touch the last 2 weeks, but back. Opened a new. I should have announced this. I opened a new repo with acceptance tests for Helm. So I was working with Taylor on this, and spins up a kind cluster, installs a bunch of stuff, and makes sure it's working on multiple Kubernetes versions. So if you have any other ideas for stuff, just add it there. It's at Helm/acceptance testing. And then I was working with Mr. Fisher on figuring out what are the remaining things to get before the beta for the registry stuff. So for example, there's a certain layout that OCI requires. So I'm looking at that. That's about it. Matt Fisher.
All right. So this week there was the Alpha 2 release that I've been working on, getting that shipped out. So basically what I've been doing is working through making sure that we have everything that we wanted to get merged in before we did the Alpha 2, and then figuring out what do we need to get in and what can we defer until the next beta. So there were a couple of things like Adam and I have been working on that we wanted to defer. And then there's a couple of PRs that I think myself and Taylor had also worked on that we said that those are kind of okay to punt to the next beta because they're kind of feature adds and they just need a little bit more time testing. So those are out there, but now what my plan is for this next week, I've been going through the issue queue just to make sure that we have everything that is a major compatibility breaker inside of the beta 1 milestone. So if there's something missing, please either let me know or feel free to add that already to the beta milestone that we need to consider. So there's that. And then now what I'm working on this week, I had been doing some KubeCon San Diego CFP reviews, so that's unrelated. Nothing else much to report on my side, just kind of going through more or less the issues and the PRs that have been in there and helping out others with understanding some things. So that's all. Let's go to, I think that is everyone. Yeah, I think that's everyone on the core list. So pass back to Scott.
Okay, great. Did anyone else who's not on the core list want to give Helm-related stand-up?
Yeah, I'd like to go real quick. Okay, so I've been doing a few things with flags for with the P flags and Cobra flags. The kube context stuff and the kube config was being ignored. I think I've got some good changes for those, and those they should be ready to go. So if you guys can take a second look at those. But really the important one I wanted to talk about is this issue 66, I think is what it is. It has to do with the error output from the required function. So I've got a change out that fixes it, but it is a little bit of a hack. Basically, I'm wrapping the warning message that a user defines, wrapping it in some arbitrary text, and then parsing that out later whenever the error actually occurs. So like I said, it's a little bit of a hack. But the question I had about this was that the more I look into the required function, it seems like the whole purpose of this is you give it a variable, and then it should fail if there's no value, at which point the warning message itself seems a little redundant. Like that's kind of the obvious thing. So I don't know if there's an option could be to remove that warning message and just provide some generic thing to make it really easy to. We could, then figure out the line number, column number, and just say you're missing a value. You go to that line number and you find out what's required. But there might be something else to that warning message that I'm missing. I don't know if anyone has any insight as to why that was implemented in the first place.
So the only context that I know the required, so there's two different ways of doing it. One is the generic panic or the required function failing because the value is not present and the user has not set a custom error message. The reason why the custom error message was made available in the first place, if I recall, was because sometimes the user or the chart developer knows about a certain context behind that value, that if it's set, then it sets the chart in a certain behavior. So if you don't set it, then a certain use case or certain behavior of the chart is undefined, that if you set that value, you're not going to get any context behind why that value was unset or for a particular reason. So that was the only reason that I recall that being there. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that makes sense. That was kind of what I expected, was that there was some extra context there that could be added. So yeah, if that is the case, then it's probably not a good idea to remove that functionality. It does make this change a little bit difficult. Like I said, this regex parsing thing is the only solution I can come up with other than just going back to the original kind of clunky error output. So I said if I could get some reviews on that, that'd be great.
Yeah, I can take a look. I can take the action item to take a look at that one closer too, because I'm not too happy with the regular expression thing, but I'm also at the same point. I have no idea how else we could possibly look into this. So I'm gonna take a look closer either earlier next week, or if I do have some free time tomorrow, then maybe I can take a look at that tomorrow and see if there's any other way that we could potentially make that error message better without doing some injection of things at the start and the end of the log and then trying to parse that out.
Awesome. All right, thanks. That's it for me.
Okay. I think I added that as a discussion topic because I think that ultimately kind of fell under there, just for looking. I guess we should move into discussion topics then. The next one, the keys file for signed releases. Oh, that was Farina's?
Yeah, that's me. So we've been signing releases, but people need to be able to verify them. And so we need a good way to do that. There's a proposal in the issue. Basically, we're going to follow something like what the Apache Foundation does. So we'd put our keys into a public key server like the MIT key server. And we would also have a keys file that has all of them in it. So you could just fetch that keys file and you could go against that as well. This is kind of what folks at the Apache Foundation do. Right now, our keys, somebody's got to go track them down. It's not easy to automate. So like Fisher's been doing the releases with us. It's great. It's great. Then Martin comes along and goes and does it. Somebody's, ooh, a new key. How do I go verify it? How do I go do it? Your automation pulling from Fisher's no longer works if one of us does it. So what we really need to do is have a keys file outside of that. And so there's a proposal here to do that. I propose you basically just follow what the Apache Foundation does, because they literally, even their keys file has the directions at the top on how you add keys to it and how you do stuff. And then it's a long running forever kind of thing, because you may want to validate something from 2 years ago, or 3 or 4 years, whatever, how long ever this stuff's around for. So I want to bring it up in case somebody had an alternative idea. Otherwise, everyone who does a release will need to put their public key into this file, and there'll be directions in it. And both Matt and Martin will need to do it in the short term. But yes, Matt?
I believe we had talked about having a centralized key for signing Helm 3. I know this would be great for Helm 2, but didn't we have a discussion about having a centralized key that we all the maintainers trusted, and that would be the key? So I think we were talking about moving to like Notary or something like that, where Essential Key was being used for releasing Helm 3. And so people would only have to fetch one key, and it would be like the Helm core maintainer's key.
Yes, that to switch to something like Notary. And you know what we haven't done? Get this going.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's where one of the problems comes in. It may be something we can do in a bit. I had hoped to go after this, but I have not had the time. My time has kind of fallen apart this year. So I haven't had the time to chase down doing something like Notary for Helm 3 in order to do that. Because the Notary functionality would cause, once you have it, it can update. So if a key gets broken in the future, right, Notary can literally go do all of that work to update the key and that functionality. And the Go clients exist. Everything's out there to make this work. You can get a simple server. It all works today. It's great. Except somebody's got to go do that legwork. And there's still a bunch of legwork to do. So maybe we'll get it for Helm 3. Maybe we'll get it in like Helm 3.1 or 3.2. I don't know. But this is, yeah, this is a Helm 2 thing.
Yeah, I mean, even if we're considering on doing that kind of functionality in the future, this is still a great thing for Helm 2, and even as we're going out the door for Helm 3. And if we eventually find the time to actually do the other infrastructure work, I'm saying that as in, I'd love to do this as well, but I also have a wedding that I'm going to in 4 weeks' time, and I'll be gone.
That I'm going to, like you're attending.
Yeah.
Like you're just an attender, right? I'm going to a wedding. I'm just going to be out a little bit, right? That's all it is. Yeah.
Yeah. But this work that we're trying to do, it probably would still exist even after we do the Notary stuff, because we still need to trust the keys from previous releases. So I think we should definitely go.
Once the Notary stuff's in place, yeah, you'd still need to have the key file for anything we've got out there. But really, we need this for Helm 2 today, because we'll have Helm 2 for probably 6 months after Helm 3 is out the door in supported mode with releases, right? So we've got to have something for a while anyway. So since you're going to be gone soon, we should probably jump on doing this. So that way we do it while we still have your public key and you can do this easily. Okay.
If not, I can just post my public key, like as an ASCII armored key or whatever, and then ship it off to you guys, and then you can do whatever you need to do with it.
And many of us have already signed it if it's the same key that we use the Keybase team for.
Yeah, I believe those are actually inside Keybase. Like maybe my key is available in there, so that information is even there. So you don't even need me for that part.
So okay, we've got other things here, so we should probably move on while we have time. I'll follow up with this. I actually want to add Bridget's comment to a discussion topic for today or next week.
Yeah.
So,
but that's good enough for before moving on. That's definitely good enough for now, and we're not blocked on anything while you're away, right?
No.
Okay, cool.
Okay, I think you're muted, Scott.
Oh my gosh! Wow, thank you. Okay, yes. So, Hang, you added a note to the discussion to bring up. Could you please add that to the discussion list on the? Do you have the document, the discussion document?
Is it me?
Yeah, the notes doc. We'll add this to the list. I just wanted to respond to your comment real quick. We'll add that to the list of discussion topics.
I have posted the issue link in the chat.
Okay. So the next topic is Martin's about work remaining for Helm 3.
Yeah, it's just a quick one. How best to, I suppose, help out with the priority work coming through and so forth, and yeah, that kind of an area.
So in terms of work remaining for Helm 3, so this is something that I have been working on now, actually in the last few days, because I've been getting requests from other people saying, like, we need to know what's kind of like on the roadmap for going up into the next releases. What are we thinking of doing for the next thing? So what I've done so far is, now that I've updated the beta list with all the items that I think that we need, like these are the major items that we need to get in for the next backwards and compatible breakages. which that would include like the three-way merge patch, which is something that I think Taylor, Adam, and I are kind of working through the design together. Then there's the API version bump, which is just a really simple, just going through and doing some bumps here and there to make sure that that all works. Oh, and I guess we'll have to do some version checking in there too. But I think those are the two major things that we need to land in the next 4 weeks. And then anything else are just bug fixes and things that would be nice to have here and there. And then just kind of inspecting the SDK to make sure that it's maintainable. So
yeah, I think that to add on to that, Fisher, like the big things are like making sure if you're using it as an SDK to let us know if there's any rough edges. I've already been trying to address some of that from people. And then the other thing is if you see anything, we have a label called needs v3 fix that's been attached to any PRs that need to be ported over. So if you see any PRs that we don't have that labeled on, or you see any that we haven't implemented, those are good things to take on. And that goes also for any community members as well, not just maintainers. If you see something where it's a port feature over, those would be greatly appreciated, because I've done a lot of work with that, and I can't always do that. I'm trying to do some like the supply stuff and other things. So just to add on to what Fisher was saying, those are probably the easiest way to jump in if people are looking for stuff to do to help push it towards the end, because those are things that need to be ported over.
Okay, cool, thanks.
And actually related on this conversation as well, Josh, you mentioned already skipping Alpha 3, and Bridget already mentioned yes in favor of Beta 1, just to give some quick context on that actually. So the reasoning behind why there's no Alpha 3 is because, so the shift between going from an alpha to a beta is the definition of you are no longer making any backwards incompatible changes and you're only doing bug fixes until the next release. So from evaluating the roadmap, there's only two major functionality breakers that I think that we have, and that's the three-way merge patch stuff, because that breaks the SDK. And then there is the API chart version bump, which I had just mentioned about. As far as I understand, there's no other major compatibility breakers aside from the registry stuff that you're working on. So with those,
but that's more feature though. We can actually add stuff in beta.
Yeah, exactly. We can make that breaking change as well, and that's a feature addition to improve that. So
okay. Yeah, because I want to lock down the layer stuff and talk some more.
So once we get those all shipped in, then that should be considered, we're no longer making any breaking changes, which is when we kind of signal that that's beta, and that's when we want people to go and test that, because that's when we can start thinking about how do we do migrations over from Helm 2 to Helm 3, how do we get those stories in, how do we do documentation and fix those things before we get the final release out. So, because if we did an Alpha 3, then we'd be doing like a weird bug fix release between Alpha 3 and Beta 1, which should really be a beta between Beta 1 and Beta 2. So that was the only reason why there's no Alpha 3.
Awesome. I'm glad we're moving along anyway. So yeah. Thank you, Matt Fisher, for all your work. And
I'm just hurting cats.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, definitely. Next is Harry's Helm Hub China discussion.
Hi guys. Yeah, I think you may notice that we have already sent a couple of pull requests to the Helm charts repo and to try to link the Helm Hub charts, which has been localized in China. And I also see some mart, I don't know which mart has already looked good to me, so I think it's a good. Another thing is that we also sent a pull request to, I think, to the monocular repo to link the Helm Hub China itself, but I'm not sure if it's the right repo, so I would like to ask you guys. I also list the question here, so where will be the best place to link the Hub URL? So maybe the Helm Hub GitHub repo or just a monocular repo?
Probably both. Let me go take a look at it. We should have something in the README on the Helm Hub repo as well.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as the monocular repo, I've got to go look at how links work across monocular versus the Helm Hub. So I'll go take a look at those two issues.
Okay. Thank you very much. So yeah, that is basically the question. And also one thing I want to share with you guys is that our team is also working on translating Helm version 3 documentation to Chinese, but it's not like 100% of translating. It's actually involving some localized version. For example, during the Chinese version of the documentation, we will replace some unavailable URLs from the original documentation. So it's more like a localized version of Helm version 3 documentation in Chinese. So maybe I think we can finish this work next month. So we'll let you guys know and to see how it goes.
Harry, I have a quick question. I think I tried to reach out to you before, but the thing that you're using to import stuff from Helm Hub, is that something open sourced?
You mean for the Helm Hub China stuff?
Basically, yeah. How are you getting the tarballs over?
Yeah, actually, it's actually like we synchronize every chart from the Helm Hub charts from the GitHub repo, and then do localization, and then clone to the local GitHub repo. It's actually involving to repackage the charts because we need to modify the contents in the charts.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not copy the tarballs or stuff.
Well, if you have that code open source, that'd be much appreciated.
We will actually. The name of that stuff is called Syncer, so we will open source that stuff very quickly.
Awesome. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Cool, thanks. Heng, did you want to mention or discuss the Helm controller and CRD issue now?
Okay. Actually, this is about 2 weeks ago, and sorry, I have missed the last 2 meetings, and I was originally want to give a little demo of this project. Is that okay? I can share the screen of mine. Can I share my screen to give a little demo?
I actually was not keeping an eye on the time.
Sorry, my English is not very good. I'm basically not.
I'm sure it's valuable. I just realized we just hit the end of the meeting. So we should be. I mean, I would be interested, but I think we should be respectful of everyone's time. So would you be available to join next week, and we can put your discussion point at the top of the list?
Okay.
Or perhaps even we could split that off as a separate meeting, and we could discuss about that as just kind of like a lunchbox demo. If you would like to do that, then we can definitely send that off to the maintainers list or to the users list and see who wants to come along from the community to have a look at that demonstration. Because I think that would be very valuable to show off.
Sorry, I think I missed someone. Can you?
Oh, that's okay, Heng. Are you on Kubernetes Slack by chance? Would you mind posting your email here real quick before you hang up? I'd hate to lose you. And if we don't find a better place, we could do the other thing where his discussion topic, Fisher could be the first one next week if we don't get to coordinate something separately. But I think that's a good idea. And okay, thank you. I'll take that and I'll reply so that we don't lose your feedback. Thanks a lot, everybody. See you next week. Bye.